Hey, welcome to the Livingsmith podcast. We teach the gold standard of co-living investing and management. So my name is Grant Shipman. I'm the founder of Livingsmith, and I wanted to just share some thoughts. They may appear disconnected, but these are thoughts that really integrate together to show the big picture from different angles of what's going on with the co-living world, as per my perspective from my little corner of co-living. So those of you who are new to it, those of you who are experienced, it's always good to remember exactly what we're talking about. What is co-living? So co-living in a broad term is houses in a neighborhood. So a neighborhood house being rented out by the room on long-term leases. So in one sense, a very broad term of co-living is just a new name for an old rental strategy called rent by the room. That's pretty boring. However, what makes it more exciting, something that's new, something that has never happened before, as far as America goes, is co-living as a rent by the room, long-term strategy, everything that I just shared, neighborhood house for mainstream renters. So I like to divide co-living into co-living transitional housing. So transitional co-living. So this is typical rent by the room, right? People are usually not there if they're not there longer than they want to be, right? They're in transition. This might be student housing, this might be sober living, this might be boarding housing, but it's not a place where people want to be for longer than they need to be. So if they can afford to be somewhere else, if they recover pregnancy crisis housing, there's all of these different types of rent by the room housing that fit these transitional needs. Even senior housing would be an example of this. Mainstream co-living. So what is new, it really started to get its roots in about 2003, really started picking up steam 2011, 2012, when the share economy like Airbnb, Uber, things like this got started. That's when the first co-living big companies got started. Companies like Ollie and Starstein, Hub House. So they kept picking up steam. So money's getting poured into this, but it's also very much and first and foremost a grassroots movement, right? A lot of people think Airbnb started this kind of idea, but a lot of people say, no, Airbnb just picked it up from this grassroots movement called couch surfing, right? And so co-living, mainstream co-living, so mainstream renters renting a nice house in a nice neighborhood and wanting to live there for a long time on long-term leases, this was something altogether new. And one way to look at it is that this is a reinvention, a reinvigoration of the household for this century. People are not doing the traditional household as much, right? So they're putting off marriage or not having children, or marriages are failing. People are living longer. So one spouse is outliving another. So you have a widow, but you have all of these people who typically in the past would have lived alone, but they would rather live with others. People would rather not live alone. The sexiness, the prestige of having a place by yourself, the penthouse on the top floor, that's really lost its glitz, right? So mainstream co-living is another aspect, a key aspect of co-living. There's a lot of different ways to walk up to the co-living movement and look at it and step back and walk up to it a different way. There's a lot of angles, but one way to look at it is there's transitional co-living and there's mainstream co-living. Something else we have happening is that a lot of people have been losers in co-living. And this is something that needs to happen in any new movement, right? You have a lot of people who are first movers. They jump in the ring, they throw their hat in there. They want to be successful. And over time, some of those are successful and some of those are not. And so we have had over $256 million of failed startup capital Ollie, Hub House, Star City, Common Incorporated failed just last year. We have all of this stuff happening, right? But the other side of that is there are people coming out head and shoulders above others, right? So Padsplit.com, started in 2017, has not failed. It, in fact, continues to spread. So there's that happening. Educators are rising up. Basically, there's the winners are getting separated from the losers. And this is going to continue to happen as the movement matures. Another big thing that's happening is the first co-living conference in the country is being hosted June 2025 in Denver, Colorado. And that's actually myself and my partner, Craig Curlap. We're hosting that conference. And it is exclusively about co-living, right? All of the top leaders are going to be there. This is another example of this movement maturing, this movement finding itself, establishing itself, right? Not just as a grassroots thing that comes and goes, or something that gets excited, people get excited about in the investment world, right? And then it's forgotten about, right? That this movement, I would very much argue, is something that has not come about specifically because of economics, right? An up economy, a down economy. It has come about because a shift in culture, right? A shift in society and how we live. And that is going to look different ways, different up and down economies, right? But that this is something that has been a long time coming. It's been a long time building. We're in about the 22nd year, I would say, of the co-living movement right now as being in 2025. And it is really starting to get its legs underneath itself and to mature. Where will this go? Well, we're looking at that, right? It's very interesting. One thing to look at is, so we're in a switch, or switching gears again to the rental market. So room rentals are a different market than, say, apartment rentals or housing rentals. Room rentals were increasing in price. In a typical area, they'd be about $700 a room in 2017. And that started to increase. Then we had COVID happen. A lot of people started renting out rooms, right? As this movement grows in popularity, right? It's happening everywhere you look. And so room rates that were going up actually started to go back. And I would say that whether you're in the middle of a city in an expensive area, or you're in the suburbs, or you're in a smaller town, room rates are going to be anywhere from $700 to $1,100. And they're not going to vary much outside of that when you're renting a room in a shared apartment or a house. So the room rental market operates independently from the housing or the apartment rental market. And so that's something that's been interesting to see as it's happened. Actually, we have our room rates have gone down to our 2017, 2018 level, which is very interesting. And to put it frankly, is us in co-living, we're not bummed at all because we make so much money, right? When you sell pizza by the slice, you make way more money than selling a whole pizza, right? So when you rent a house out by the room, your profit margins are so large compared to renting that whole house out on one lease. So for those of us, like I'll just speak for myself, is room rates dropping a little bit is actually not a big deal at all because they're at the rate, say 2017, 2018 rates that we were making, money hand over fist, right? So let's switch gears one more time. So another very unique and powerful thing about this movement is that the investor or the owner of the property and the renter, that those people are both getting more for less, right? Usually in an equation, if one side is going to win, the other side is going to be to lose, right? And it's not like a adversarial thing. Like in the housing market, when you're buying and selling houses, it's usually either a buyer's market or a seller's market, right? One has the advantage. In co-living, what is very cool is that both sides are winning, right? Like an owner or investor of a rental property is getting more for the same property. That's such a big deal, right? And the renter on the other side of the equation is getting more, right? Like they're getting a whole house for the price of a room, right? Where the owner is getting 2.5, 3 times the monthly rent for the same house, just a different rental strategy. So this is a very unique and powerful thing. And hopefully those who want to take advantage of this, the investors, the owners who want to take advantage of this, is that you are on the same team as your renter. You're both getting more for less, right? The more one wins, the more the other wins, right? If any of us are going to win, all of us are going to win together, right? So if a owner or investor is not really taking care of the house, is not putting a household system in place so the renters can really run their own house, have that pride of being in a nice neighborhood house. If that's not going on, then renters are going to go elsewhere, right? Both renters and owners and investors are going to lose, right? But if the owners and investors, if we maintain the house as well, right? If we have healthy places to live, if we put in a household system, a complete household system where the renters are able to really, as a group, take quote unquote ownership of the house and its day-to-day affairs, then the renters are going to want to stay there a long time and love and take care of the house, right? It becomes a beloved home. And the owners, investors get that benefit because they have low turnover, they have low property damage, and over the years, their house actually gets in better and better shape. So this is a really distinct and a fantastic, in my opinion, fantastic aspect of the co-living movement. Anyway, those are so many scattered thoughts. I hope that they assist you, because you yourself can be a big player in the co-living movement, right? It's anybody's game right now, right? There's been no category king, right? No end all be all of co-living, right? It's the movement is not that mature, right? It's still maturing. The leaders are emerging, right? Leaders are rising and falling. Investors, managers, who has the most units under management, who's the most successful, right? All of that stuff, right, is still up in the air. So I hope that if you're drawn to co-living, rather because of the financial returns, the social impact, fill in the blank, right? Whatever it is that draws you, right? Step in strong. It is the time where people are getting in. There is a large financial return. It's very meaningful. It's very impactful. Anyway, thanks for listening. Let's unleash the power of co-living.